The modern church never really worked for me, and I was a pastor in it for over a decade. Honestly, I feel like it's failing a lot of people. You ever walk into a church and you just don't connect? You can't connect with the people that are there, no matter how hard you try, it just doesn't seem to work. You feel like your beliefs exclude you from the faith community. That was me until one day my church plant got canceled and I had to find a new way. And instead of finding modern church, I found something ancient. So stick around. That's what we're going to talk about. I was on a church plant and I met with my mentor who was supposed to guide me through the process. It wasn't my first church plant, but it was the first one that I was the lead pastor for. And I had a lot of questions about the normal way of doing things. It just didn't feel right. It didn't fit me. It didn't fit my community. And so I was talking about this with him, and he asked me if I would ever accept a job as a discipleship pastor somewhere, if the church was just right, if it was one that I felt like I belonged to. And I thought about it for a while, and I said that I would, and he canceled my church plant. He said anybody who would take anything less than planning a church would never make it. And so he told me to just stop. The denomination actually contacted me later and asked me how things were going. And when I told them that it had gotten canceled, they ended up doing some research and then asked me to plan again. But by that time, we had moved on. It wasn't relevant to us anymore. In the meantime, after being told that my church plant was canceled and having to tell this small little congregation that we had kind of formed in the house that we weren't going to be doing it anymore. First, I took a break for a little while, and then I started looking for a church home. Where do I belong? An outcast of the church, somebody that can't plant this church in this town. Where am I supposed to be? And I ended up finding down the road from me this little tiny church building. It was in like one of those strip mall things. And it was the Apostolic Celtic church. And I walked in because I figured it's around the corner. Why not give it a try? I walked in and there were like less than 10 people. And like 8 of them must have been in robes. And I'm trying to figure out what's happening in this place. I've never seen anything like this before. I had very little experience with high liturgical churches. And I sit down and there's this giant book, for lack of a better word, on the table. And it is the script. Like I'm supposed to say this, the priest says this, and then I say this, and back and forth, back and forth. Apparently, liturgical call and response. But I had never experienced it. And I thought it was awful. But afterwards, they invited me to Denny's, and I don't know why I went, but I decided to go. I liked how these people talked and how they talked with each other, how they treated each other. And as I sat there at Denny's with them, I watched one of the leaders in the church say these things that would have gotten me kicked out of any other church as a heretic. And other people didn't agree with him, but it was okay for him to have these different beliefs. And it was then that I started to get my first exposure to what generous orthodoxy means. What does it mean when everybody belongs, no matter what they believe, where you just work together even though you disagree? And it was in this church that I began to be exposed to an ancient history that church has of generous orthodoxy. People who accept each other, even though they disagree, instead of banishing from the church or telling them that they don't belong. And generous orthodoxy, this idea of everybody belonging, is what we're going to talk about, what we do talk about. on this channel. So stick around, look at the next video that YouTube is suggesting, and watch that and engage, comment, reply. We'd love to hear from you.